So the 100 Girlfriends introduces, in my opinion, the best girlfriend yet. I mean, it could be recency bias. I do think, like, depending on the episode, there's a few that fluctuate between the number one spot for me. But Mei as a character who kind of has, like, the background character shy persona, can pretty much do Nightcrawler level teleports when too embarrassed, is a really good addition, and I'm sure if you go back probably many episodes, she probably was in the background, like, trying to keep away from the forefront, and that's probably very funny for a rewatch. But between her and Tomboy Darkness, I'm eating good with those two characters. You have one who's just, like, adorably shy, but obviously is going to be... she's going to experience some shit in this harem. On top of a character who wants to be hit in the face with a baseball bat. It's some pretty good comedy and emotion there. But I gotta admit, you know, as sexually provocative as this episode was, I mean, they literally 69 in this episode. There was that. There was adult breastfeeding. It was intense in that way. We ain't gonna sugarcoat it. But in all actuality, this was probably the sanest episode of Season 2 and the most similar to the first season. All of this season, whatever semblance of sanity it might have had in the first season, went out the window at the very beginning of Season 2. And pretty much every look at last week's episode. You can't say that's a sane episode. This, however, for girlfriend number 11, I believe at this point, I mean, they just kind of function as you would expect, but her personality held it together in a way that was a very enjoyable episode. Last week's still my overall favorite 100 Girlfriends episode, but this one, I mean, it was a very close second if I'm being 100%. Of course, if you want to see my full thoughts, though, support my work, we got the Patreon, full and cut live reactions, available exclusively over there if you're so interested. The best part, though, is that, like, I'm gonna give you the quick list. My top 5 girlfriends right now, it could fluctuate depending on the episode, but number 1, probably Mei, probably Tomboy Darkness, the mom, Hahari, but she also balances between worst girl and best girl depending on the scene. Karne, and then followed by Shizuka. I think those are the characters that I enjoy the most as it stands. But at the end of the day, it does fluctuate. So keep in mind when I say this, Hahari can be number 1 or number negative 100 depending on the scene. But she needs to be arrested. The best part too is that when Hahari, her daughter, is even acknowledging she should be put in jail, you can't even just say, oh, you're over. No, like, she's like 29 years old and she's preying on 16-year-olds, including her own daughter. The best part, too, is she has a moment where she's like, I should probably fire the principal. Yeah, you should, but here's the best part. The only reason we as a collective community accept Hahari and don't think she deserves to be in jail by the masses is because she's hot. What she does is really no different than that of the principal who sticks her freakishly long venom tongue down children's mouths. If anything, Hahari might actually be doing worse because she continuously does shit with them, and as far as we know, the students escape the principal. But at the end of the day, I'm putting them at the same level. It's just the reason one's more accepted is one's hot and one isn't, and one has the saggy titties from that one South Park character. But I love the fact that the characters are self-aware enough more often than not. Like, there's usually at least 1 or 2 characters that, like or accept the bullshit. And usually it's Karne who's the character who's like, what the hell? Like, that's why she's one of my favorites, is she's kind of been the straight man of the group for a long time. She says it how it is. But I do appreciate that in this episode, it was actually Hahari who is like, Mom, I'm gonna throw your bitch ass in jail. And I'm like, that's fantastic. So, Mei as a character is a fun one. I thought they were going to extend her addition until the last episode of the season, mainly because, like, okay, her intro is, oh, pantsuit for days, bras, tits, whatever else, but we gotta keep our bangs covered. So I thought that was going to be an ongoing gag that she would interact with our characters before, obviously, the thing would happen, but it happened quicker than I thought. And I honestly really liked her addition. It was very similar to something from, like, a season 1 kind of vibe. It was simple, but it was effective. And I think the idea of having a character who very clearly is going to be thrown in some intense situations, against her will, mind you, but the idea that she associates herself as a background character, she's a misdirect. If you focus on her too much, she does a quick switcheroo with a stuffy that she made, and she runs like Sonic the Hedgehog. It's a very fun gimmick, and I think by using that gimmick to then go to hide and seek, was actually the perfect way to introduce her to the overall cast. Pretty much all of them were with a partner, and I think each of them were perfect. The idea of, Shizuka hiding in a box and being like, oh, it's the adorable treasure. our maid and tomboy darkness hanging on the ceiling. Of course, they weren't going to be found out right there, but the torture of what, an hour of them being there sweating bullets is hilarious. But I love how the show's so wild that I can't always remember how wild something was the last time I saw it. So when I saw the principal, I thought to myself, was her hair always that large? Or is she hiding in that hair? And I thought she probably was hiding in the hair, but at the same time, I was like, 100 girlfriends, they're not going to be so ridiculous at the... No, she had no idea. And I think that's hilarious. Last week showed that you could have dozens of seasons just parroting world-ending movies or different movies in general with this cast, and it would be hilarious. This week's episode kind of shows you that, in terms of that more classical season 1, introduce a girl, there's a bit of a intense gimmick, but it's not going, Loch Ness Monster got spawned, or, we got Medusa's hair trying to turn everyone to stone. Like, that type of stuff's still gonna happen, but I appreciate for a character like this, it makes sense to keep it more simple because of her shyness, right? But the more intense and more in-your-face a character is, probably the more intense the arc or episode in question will be. In general, very enjoyable episode. The fact that not only do you have the daughter say, "Arrest my mother," which is glorious, you had the numerous scenes that I'm like, did you actually just show that? When you have the hungry girlfriend trapped under a table with the honker of mom, you knew she was gonna eat something. Like, I'm just imagining there's at least one student who's called up the authorities. I don't think police exist in this world, mind you, just keep that in mind. But if they did, the shit they would walk into on a daily basis, and knowing this show's logic, they'd be like, everything looks in order here, as someone's swinging back and forth with a mouthful of mom. Wow. Fantastic episode, dumb as hell, but honestly, I really like this character. The thing about 100 Girlfriends is I have like a group that I consider my favorite, and depending on the episode, they kind of bounce around. There's only one character that I consider my favorite that can also be the absolute worst, and that is, of course, Hahari. And I love her for that. I mentioned it last week, but I gotta bring it up again. I had a comment a couple weeks back that said the best part about her as a character is you never know if you want her arrested or if you love her. And this episode is a great example of that comment, and I thank you for that. Let me know your thoughts down below. Leave a like if you enjoyed. Subscribe if you're new around. Of course, ring that bell. And like I mentioned, we got those full live reactions over on Patreon. And hey, while you're over there, I'll just give you a video shout out. Alright, so today we got Clay Samuel, Hayden, Cody Namir, Oris Lopez, Chorus, Project 7, and we also have Emma K. Pop. So I appreciate the support, everyone. Please take care. Have a good one.